In this morning's Eye on Earth, 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg joins us for her first live U.S. television interview. The teenager made headlines last year with her solitary strike against climate change outside Sweden's parliament. She's inspired millions of supporters to rally in more than 150 countries. Greta recently sailed across the Atlantic Ocean in a zero-emissions yacht. She landed here in New York, where she'll be speaking at the UN's Climate Action Summit later this month. And Greta joins us at the table. Greta, good morning.
Good morning.
Glad you made it on the boat.
Yes.
Glad you made it.
Yeah.
Your message for world leaders is that it's time to panic, and you want them to panic. What do you hope happens next?
I mean, of course, by panic, I don't mean literally panic, but that we, and that especially they, step out of their comfort zone, because the planet is outside its comfort zone, and we also need to be outside our comfort zone to prevent the worst consequences from happening. And what I want people to do now is to become aware of the crisis that is here, and that I tell world leaders when I speak to them, and I tell them how it is, how I tell them the science and how it looks like, and
what do they say?
You said to us a moment ago you want to push them against the wall.
Yeah. To shame them, you said.
those who need shaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that I have been doing for quite a while now, and it actually has a lot of impact when you speak like truth to power, when you don't bother to be polite, because this is such a serious crisis, and we cannot focus on what we can or cannot say. Now we must speak clearly about what is happening.
I'm wondering, Greta, what gave you the confidence to do that?
That's what I was wondering too. Yeah.
I don't know, I just know what is right, and I want to do what is right. I want to make sure that I have done everything in my power to stop this crisis from happening, to prevent it, and that I promise myself that I will do everything I can, and that is what I'm trying to do. And also I have Asperger's. I'm on the autism spectrum, so I don't really care about social codes in that way.
In fact, you called your Asperger's, you called it a superpower, a gift. What do you mean by that?
Yes, in some circumstances it can definitely be an advantage to have some kind of neurotypical diagnosis and to be neurodiverse. I mean, and because that makes you different, that makes you think differently, and especially in such a big crisis like this, when we need to think outside the box, we need to think outside our current system, that we need people who think outside the box and who aren't like everyone else.
This began as a one-kid hunger strike in Sweden.
All right, millions taking to the streets to protest climate change. And while the majority of protesters were peaceful, that wasn't the case in Portland, Oregon, all thanks to Antifa.
Johnny, go back. Shut the go back. CHS, you stop, piece of.
We're in the middle of a public park, you pigs. Okay.
I cannot believe they have to take that. How proud their parents must be. Here with more is journalist Andy Ngo, who shot the video. You'll remember he was targeted by Antifa over the summer. Andy, it's clear that a lot of people there were peaceful protests. They got to miss school too. So how many were Antifa?
Yeah, so on Friday, hundreds of thousands around the world marched, and in spite of the apocalyptic language and fear-mongering about the climate, it was peaceful, except for in Portland, where a faction of Antifa militants dressed head to toe in black and wearing masks showed up and commandeered part of the demonstrations. They replaced the chants about the climate to expletives against the police. There were several arrests throughout the day. One of the violent suspects who was arrested, who has a big Antifa tattoo on his neck, was found to be carrying a cache of weapons, including a dagger, a switchblade, a hammer, and brass knuckles. As if that wasn't bad enough, once the climate strike was over, these group of masked militants descended on the local ICE facility, the same facility that was under a 5-week siege last year, and began to throw projectiles like rocks at the federal officers who were protecting the facility. When they responded, they all took off running in different directions, and that's what you see in the video.
Andy?
The police who were chasing them dropped some of the ammunition, and one of the masked Antifa people attempted to pick it up. You can see the abuse that the police endured that day. Antifa says that they organized to oppose the far right, but really they just use that as a pretense to take to the streets, to cycle through a number of issues and to push their political agenda.
True. Andy, a couple of things. You were attacked. You know this personally. So you understand what they're violently capable of. But seeing those two kids, they look like white kids, late teens, early 20s. Is that typical Antifa?
This group that demonstrated on Friday was a bit younger than what the average Antifa member is, you could say. And this was their youth wings. And what's concerning about this to me is that this movement is able to recruit younger and younger people. I mean, many of these masked people were really children. And you see how they've bought onto this narrative that the police are evil, and they have no hesitation in not just showing disrespect to law enforcement, but hatred and trying to actively get in the way of the arrest. Right.
Andy, we have to go to break, but if you're a guy, if you're a kid and you're screaming at a cop like that and challenging a cop, that police chief's got to empower his officers to arrest these guys, leave them in jail for a week or two, and then we'll see how militant they are when they get out. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Chris Coon trashes Joe Biden and all of his, quote, free stuff. I'm Josh Bernstein filling in for Gary Franchi in the Next News Network. Now remember, folks, Next News is being heavily censored, so please make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. Make sure you're still getting your notifications. If you're new to the channel, please check out the newsletter in the description below. And remember, folks, we've also been taken out of the suggested videos from time to time, so please, we're now counting on you to make sure that not only you continue to watch the Next News Network, but that you're sharing it with others so that we can continue to get the word out on the true news. Now let's get to your story. According to Trent Baker from Breitbart Reports, Senator Chris Coons, Delaware Democrat, on Friday discussed his support of 2020 Democratic presidential candidate, former Vice President, Crazy Joe Biden, over the likes of Senator Elizabeth High Cheekbones Pocahontas Warren from the Liar-Watha tribe, and of course, who could forget, Bernie Breadline Sanders. Coons said that on CNBC's Squawk Box that he is backing Joe Biden because he supports economic growth in the United States, and Biden will be solving the problems for average Americans and working to bring the country together. Wow. What a statement that is. Go ahead and roll this clip.
I mean, it's kind of, it's hyperbole. It's hyperbole, obviously, but I mean, any pro-private sector, free market, pro-capitalist, that the specter of a Warren or Sanders presidency is absolutely horrifying. Well, is it to you?
I think Joe Biden. I want to talk about this new whistleblower business that's been making headlines. Joe Biden addressing the issue today by trying to show how tough he is, pivoting from his questionable dealings with Iranian officials to blasting President Trump. Take a listen.
Here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of the president.
But here's tough guy Biden from just about a year and a half ago bragging about ordering Ukrainian government to fire a prosecutor who happened to be investigating a company on which Biden's son served as a board member.